Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning into the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Erik Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole, the mommy blogger with balls, the inconvenient truth of health, and a certified holistic nutritional therapy practitioner. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Hope you're doing great. Hope you're having a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. I hope you're just happy, and if you're not happy, that's okay, because look, man, it's all bullshit. You know, you don't got to be happy all the time. In fact, it's probably better if you're not happy most of the time, because that's just real life. You know, a lot of people are running out there trying to take magic pills to make them feel happy all the time, because they can't handle, the stress of real life. They can't handle the fact that maybe they don't feel as happy as other people, and they get caught up there in the old social mediums, and they see everybody's happy. And then what do? They say, well, I got to be happy too, but I don't feel happy. So how do I get happy? I go to the doctor and tell him I want to feel more happy. And you know what the doctor does? The doctor says, it's not fair that you don't feel happy. You should feel happy, because that's how humans have always lived. They've always been happy. We have cave paintings of cavemen in the caves of Afghanistan. And millions of years ago, hunter-gatherers on the keto diet, they were drawing pictures with big old smiles on their face and big hairy dicks with mountain lions next to them and a spear in their hand. Because that's how humans evolve, just happy all the time. So, my friend, I'm going to write you a prescription so you go down to that pharmacy and get yourself some magical happy pills. And as soon as you take them, everything's going to be happy. But you know the truth of those pills? They actually don't really work. They don't work as good as placebo. And the funny thing is that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. I didn't even plan that introduction. It just somehow rolled directly into some of the things we're going to talk about today. Because what I'm doing is I'm keeping my eyes open on that old news front. As depressing as the news is most of the time, there are some great little gems that come across that I get to talk about on this podcast. And there were some doozies this week, if you've been paying attention. So let's get into it, right? The first thing I want to talk about here is a article that was written on the website studyfinds.org. Actually, that's where I read it, but the original paper was written in the British Medical Journal, BMJ. And what they're talking about here, or let me just read you the title. It says, "Big Pharma Fail. No evidence of added benefit in most new drugs, study finds." So there was a study published in the British Medical Journal performed by the German Institute for Quality and Efficacy in Healthcare. And, we know the Germans, they're smart people. They know how to do science. They were the Nazis. Let me take a step back. Not the Nazis who wear the Make America Great Again hats. They were the real Nazis. And along with, killing a lot of Jews, they actually invented a lot of shit. So much so that after World War II, the American government basically took all the top scientists in the Nazi regime, the Third Reich, and put them into high-level positions in our big, bustling scientific companies. I believe was it Himmler was it Himmler or one of those guys was the head of the Manhattan Project. One of the other ones invented multiple vaccines. One of them invented satellites. One of them, I think, got probed up the butt by an alien. They're in the business, is what I'm saying. And I think one of them invented a drill they use in dentist's office to fill cavities or something. They're very influential people. The point is, the Germans, they know what the hell they're talking about. And they published this study here about kind of analyzing the healthcare system. And, they're talking about drugs. And basically, they make the claim that all these new drugs that are coming on the market really have no added benefit. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that that's basically what I've been talking about since the day I started this podcast? Isn't that crazy that I've gotten in so many arguments with people on social media and in real life about this, because I'm just a wacko nut job who drinks celery juice because that actually works better than antidepressants? Ain't that crazy? Well, sometimes you gotta turn to science to get the answers you want. And basically, what they did is they studied the years between 2011 and 2017, examined 216 drugs that passed regulatory approval and entered the German market. And most of those drugs were assessed drugs that were also approved by the European Medicines Agency for widespread use throughout Greater Europe. Now, even though that's what this study examined, I can tell you that whatever they explain here for the German market and the European market is exponentially worse here in America, mostly because not only are there more drugs here, but our drug companies actually run the government. So, there's that revolving door between the drug companies, between the pharma companies, and the lawmakers and congressmen and lobbyists and all that stuff. So it's interesting they study this, and you can almost basically what they're going to analyze here in Europe. It's assumed that that's also happening here in America. So if you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, well, that's Europe. That's Europe. They don't know what they're doing in Europe. No, they're actually better at this than we are in Europe. That's the really crazy thing. So the article goes on to state, alarmingly, only a quarter of those drugs showed any significant added benefit. A quarter, based on available evidence. What's more, 16% showed even a minor added benefit, and a whopping 58% of the drugs did not show any added benefit over standard patient care. So basically, people are taking drugs and they're just not working. How many people do you know, or you might be this person yourself, who are on an antidepressant? And somehow, some way, that antidepressant just, isn't not making them depressed. I know so many people who are depressed, who are anxious, who have some kind of what they would call mental illness, and they're on these drugs, and those drugs aren't working. Now, maybe I'm sitting in like a high chair, high above, in a privileged position or something, which is just bonkers to think about. But I don't take that shit. I've been depressed. I've been anxious. I know that feeling, right? Now, granted, I don't know the feeling of being so depressed that you're, suicidal, or that, that's really it. Like I've been down in a pretty dark place before. And I still deal with these issues. It's not like because I'm the holistic a-hole, I just wake up every day, I hop out of bed, and I start running laps. Well, I kind of do. I do more like squats and lunges and kettlebell swings and stuff like that. But I don't just it's not all rainbows and sunshine for me. Like it's normal to not feel good sometimes. It's normal to feel good most of the time, right? It actually takes a lot of work to feel good. And so, when you run off to your doctor and you go get the magic happy pill, and the magic happy pill, like this article says, has no added benefit over just, drinking celery juice or fucking, lifting your arms up in the air in a victory position or whatever your thing is, it's no surprise to me. When the drugs were separated by specialty, the results were just as unsettling. Just 6% of psychiatric drugs showed any added benefit, along with, get this, 17% of diabetes drugs. So diabetes drugs are a fucking joke. They're an absolute joke. Now I get it, back in the 80s and 90s, before we had access to, PubMed on the internet and all of these great people who are doing investigative medical journals, and people like Dr. Mercola, for instance, it was one of those things where if you had diabetes, 80s, 90s, 70s, did they have diabetes medication back then? I don't know. Even maybe like 15 years ago, it made sense that, you would go to the doctor and you would get diabetes. He would say you have diabetes, and then you get diabetes medication. I understand, because we were just ignorant back then. But now, there's so much available information that, to me, it's like if you have diabetes, or if you're trending towards diabetes, if you have pre-diabetes, and we're talking diabetes 2, not diabetes 1. If you have these diabetes, if you don't know that you can not just manage it, but full on eliminate it out of your life forever with just something as simple as diet and lifestyle, you're totally missing the boat. I feel for you because I don't know why you have not. I don't know how this information has not come across your field of vision or understanding. Because to me, something like diabetes is incredibly easy to manage. Right? It's the same. You're in the same boat as somebody who just wants to lose weight. Do you need to take a pill to lose weight? No. When you want to lose weight, what do? You clean up your diet and you start exercising. It's really the same thing with diabetes, And as much as I hate to say it, it's like if you want to manage your diabetes, you can do the vegan diet. You can do the keto diet. You can do just the balanced diet of just not eating processed garbage, eating more vegetables, more fruits. And don't give me this thing where it's like, well, that stuff costs so much money. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I promise you, if you're walking out of Burger King with, a number one and a large Coke, that probably costs you $8-9. I promise you, you can go to the grocery store, get yourself, a giant thing of lettuce. You can even get organic lettuce for $3-4. You can get all those vegetables. You can get yourself some sardines. You can get yourself, some good quality meats. You can have a very healthy meal for less than you can have at, a fast food restaurant. Right? And let's stop bickering about, again, the specific diet, vegan, keto, paleo, carnivore, whatever it is. Each one of those diets will have some benefit as far as lowering your diabetes. The whole point of it is when you see people succeeding in those diets and they make these drastic gains, and one of the things they claim is, well, I don't have diabetes anymore. It's simply because they stopped eating so much processed food. It's simply because they replaced the processed food that was causing them the problems in the first place with actual real whole nutritious foods. So diabetes, of course diabetes drugs don't work, right? I mean, there's so many complications with diabetes drugs. I mean, those are the drugs you see on the commercials during the nightly news, right? It's like if you watch nightly news, you're going to see at least 2 ads for a diabetes drug. And if the ad is 30 seconds, 27 seconds is going to be telling you the side effects of that drug, aka the real effects of that drug. The side effect of the drug is actually lowering the diabetes, the increased heart rate, the shit in your pants, the suicidal tendencies. That's like the actual what the drug does, right? And you're not going to see it. They're not going to, they have to tell you. And you know how they know? It's because they've run clinical trials that did not give them the results they wanted to actually be able to patent the drug in the first place. They didn't publish those, but they took little notes. They put people on those clinical trials and they saw, holy shit, everybody wants to kill themselves. Well, we should probably write that down as a side effect. So when somebody does kill themselves when they're on our drug, we don't get sued for it. But let's not publish that study to get the drug approved because that's not going to get, even the most corrupt FDA official, maybe they will approve the drug, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, which I very rarely do, but most will not allow that drug to be approved based on a study where 50 out of 50 people wanted to kill themselves on your drug. So the study's authors say that some within the healthcare industry argue that limited information on a drug at the time of its approval is how things have always been done and is simply the price to be paid in order to provide patients with early access to unprecedented new drugs. Yes, the thing I just said, right? All the clinical trials they do, first of all, the ones that get approved, they're paid for and they're ghostwritten by the industry. The ones that fail, and even though they're paid for and they're written and they're ghostwritten and all this stuff, and the scientists are paid by the companies, they still don't work, right? They're putting the study out there that shows how the drug works. The one out of, 10, 20 clinical trials that actually worked. The other ones were just abject failures. So, when I read something like this, it to me, when you're a holistic a-hole, it's like, yeah, no duh. No duh. Like, obviously, Like, they should put this stuff out every single day. This should be posted on your refrigerator. This should be posted in public spaces. This should be the front story on the news every single night. Hey, everybody, if you want free health care, if all those Democratic candidates that raised their hand and said they would gladly abolish private health insurance for free health insurance for everybody, that would be paid for, by the way, by all the taxpayers, more so in the people who actually are the wealthier taxpayers, who, by the way, are the ones who are actually creating the jobs that are giving you an income in the first place. If you want that stuff, you have to understand that all the drugs that we are paying for, those drugs don't work. Those don't work. Why don't we just tax the air? Why don't we just tax the air we breathe? Because the air is actually more beneficial to you than the drugs that you're taking. If you have diabetes, the drug you're taking that, I have to pay for, it's not working. So why am I paying for it in the first place? This should be on the front page of the news every single day. That's all I'm saying. And there's more to the article, of course, but, I don't want to read the whole thing. You can go check it out. It was published in the BMJ, or you can find it at studyfinds.org, or I'll put a little hot link to it in the notes on the podcast. You'll find it in your little podcast player there. Now, here's another story I wanted to discuss, because this one caused a little drama in my social media this last weekend. And the funny thing is that this story initially had nothing to do with my social media fight. It was just kind of a weird coincidence. I guess I'll tell you what it is. This story was actually published in the Daily Beast, which is journalism's finest, completely unbiased journalists. And you can tell that from the title of this article, which is titled, "Farmers Markets Have New Unwelcome Guests. Dun, 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 fascists." So apparently, according to this article, if you go to a farmer's market, which I do regularly, sometimes twice a week, if you go to a farmer's market, there's a good chance that one of the farmers who is selling their stuff might be a Nazi. Can you believe that? Might be and we know that when someone on the left calls somebody on the right a Nazi, it's typically accurate, right? It's typically accurate. Like when you get called a Nazi in 2018 or 2019, it's typically because you participated in a concentration camp. You went to somebody's house and rounded up a whole bunch of Jews, put them on trucks, and sent them away to death camps. That's what Nazis are. Still, no, that's not what they are. Oh, there are no more concentration. There's not. Well, then how are Nazis at farmers markets? Oh, okay, because the Daily Beast tends to exaggerate just a little bit. Gotcha. Basically, what this article says is that I'm laughing because I just looked at it and it said, I'm just looking at it now. It says it was updated today. The article was originally published like 3 or 4 days ago, and it was just updated today. So maybe I need to go back through and read it. Maybe maybe it actually is a little more accurate, but I highly doubt it. I'm sure it's just more double down on just left-leaning insanity. But basically, it's a story about, I think it's in Indiana or Illinois. There's a farmer's market where there's a lady who sells eggs, and she sells all kinds of veggies that she grows on her farm. And she's selling them at the farmer's market just like everybody else, right? But apparently she's friends with people who are Nazis. She's a white supremacist or something. But goddamn it, her kale is fucking beautiful. Her arugula is spicy like Latin salsa night at your local discotheque. Her eggs, the yolk is such a beautiful yellow. It's like the color of the sun in a beautiful sunset. But yet, she doesn't like illegal immigrants. So you got to kind of like make hay where you can, right? You gotta decide what's more important to you. Do you want more omega-3s in your eggs versus omega-6? Do you want to get eggs from a chicken who ate a natural chicken diet, who were truly free range, who lived on bugs and grass and got to chirp around like a good chicken did, and because they weren't stressed out and grain fed and flushed with cortisol, they made a beautiful grass-fed, pasture-raised egg? Do you want that, or do you need to go back to the market because we know that the big grocery stores, there's no Nazis there. Those big corporations, those big corporate grocery stores that sell you 80% in diabetes that again aren't curable by the medications that they're probably also in business with. You got to go there and get it because the Nazis are all at the farmers market. So that's basically what this article is saying, is that if you go to a farmers market, specifically this one, you're gonna buy vegetables from a farm that's run by people who have extreme right-wing views. And the funny thing is that this article, and I could be wrong because I read it and I haven't read it in a couple days, but they're also making the claim that it's not just this specific example, but that farmers markets have become a surprising battleground between the far right and its opponents, where the far right's love of the markets plays into a larger fascist talking point that idealizes pastoral life and demonizes degenerate urban living. Who are you if you're reading this stuff? I genuinely feel bad for people. Is it millennials? Is it like older people? Who's reading this and is galvanized by these points that the farmers markets are hotbeds of far right fascists? What are you talking about? I just when you're talking about this stuff, when you write this, I write, right? I write a lot. Okay, I make videos. I make there's points that I want to make, and there's ideas I have, and then sometimes I start flushing them out, and sometimes I just say, yeah, this just doesn't make any sense. I can't, and I've put some real bad stuff out there. You can go to my YouTube channel, YouTube/Holistic A-hole. You go to my YouTube channel, you can see the videos I've put out. And I mean, I've put out some dingers, and I've put out some real hot flaming pieces of trash. But for all those hot flaming pieces of trash, you don't see the even more hot flaming pieces of trash that I say, yeah, I don't think I can make that one. I don't think I can hit publish on that. It just doesn't make sense. But I'm not the Daily Beast. I'm just a dude with 30 YouTube subscribers. This is an actual quote unquote respected news outlet saying just such insane shit. And people read this and what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to go to your farmer's market? And is Antifa going to start showing up at farmers markets and punching farmers who are serving, organic chili made with grass-fed, pasture-raised beef? What? I don't understand what the call to action is here. Farmers markets are just hotbed for fascist right-wing propaganda. I don't know. I walk around with a bag and I look at people's fucking, kale and dill. And I try to distinguish between one person's bananas and another person's bananas. I'm trying to find hey, who's got good grass-fed raw butter up in this bee? I'm not. Politics is the farthest thing from my mind when I'm walking around the farmers markets. Being afraid of Nazis, this is just insane stuff. When people talk about we're divided as a country, you know why we're divided as a country? Because people print and read stuff like this, because people walk around and they think that the farmers market is where so maybe if the farmers market is where the right wing is going, maybe the right wing isn't so threatening. If you're honestly afraid of somebody who's trying to get Swiss chard that hasn't been sprayed by pesticides and has more vitamin and mineral content than the stuff they sell in the grocery store, if that's who you think is the threat to America, you're a fucking asshole. Plain and simple. Let's move on to the next story. Because that one is just but let me take a step back before I jump on the next story. Let me just say like why this one touched me so much, because like I said, living here in Puerto Rico, man, like there's a lot of political drama going on right now, but I've really become like a regular patron of the farmers markets here, and I never went to farmers markets when I lived in New York because first of all they were very far away from where I lived. And in New York, they're exceptionally expensive, Like, I want to go to the farmers markets in New York, but it's like, man, like, they're so expensive. They're so unreasonably expensive. And to take a subway from where I lived in Queens it was like, we're talking like a 3-hour, like, travel trip. Just traveling. And they're enormous, right? But here in Puerto Rico, I got a car. They're, like, only, like, 10 minutes away. And I know, like, I'm not making the case for why people should go to farmers markets because they can be inconvenient, but now that I go to them, not only do I love them because the food is better, but really, we don't talk about politics. The politics of the farmers markets are just incredible. Now I know what you're thinking, like, oh, Eric, here comes this Nazi propaganda. Here comes some more Nazi propaganda. Yeah, the farmers markets politics are incredible, especially here in somewhere like Puerto Rico, because what people don't understand about Puerto Rico is it's a U.S. I believe it's a Commonwealth, or it's I don't exactly know like what it is. I believe it's a Commonwealth, okay? And there's this huge divide politically of all these different factions. I mean, basically politically, Puerto Rico has just been, the United States like got Puerto Rico 120 years ago, and they just kind of forgot about it. And they just forgot, like, oh yeah, like we have to treat Puerto Rico almost kind of like a state, even though they aren't a state, but they still have like inherent rights that Americans have, including citizenship and American money. But this is not America. This is like a place where people speak Spanish. This is not America, but somehow it is. But what it is America in is when you go to the grocery store, it's like an American grocery store. I talked about this, I think, 2 podcasts ago. When you go to the grocery store, there's Walmart, there's Home Depot, there's Sam's Club, there's Costco, and then there's a place called Supermax, a place called Pueblo. These are just like all like the Stop and Shops and the Albertsons and all the same American grocery stores. And the reason why I say it's crazy is because you would not believe on this little island of Puerto Rico how beautiful the land is and how fertile the soil is. I mean, you could literally just grow all the food here on the island for the people to eat, and there would be more than plenty, and it would be affordable because you don't have to pay the exorbitant import duties and fees to bring that shit in here. That is how America fucks Puerto Rico, because it's an American Commonwealth. We have to basically, like, we're basically stuck with all the American stuff. So really, like, we're just like Georgia or Mississippi or New York or California or Idaho or Illinois. We have to, like, the lobbyists from like General Mills and Kraft and Nestle, they go to Congress and they give the Congress people money, and the Congress people make it so that, that food has to come here, and they, like permits and stuff are given to people who can only open up grocery stores where all this crap is sold, so that, and they put them in the most vulnerable areas. I know people here don't got a lot of money, so they put them in the poor areas, and the poor people go, and all they can afford is, the fucking top ramen and the macaroni and cheese and the shit garbage diabetes food in the middle of the store, instead of doing what should be the natural order of how things work here, which is the island grows the food from the very fertile soil using sustainable farming, beyond organic farming practices, and we could feed the whole island. So when I go to a farmer's market, I don't go to have right-wing Nazi fucking talks with people, even though, good Lord, I would love that. But I go there because the food is so much better than the stuff you get in the grocery store. But I know when I hand a farmer $5 for his bunch of kale or collard greens or herbs or eggs or whatever it is, when I give that person $5, I know exactly where that $5 is going. There's no import duties being charged. There's no taxes being charged, and those tax dollars aren't going to, to build bombs to drop on people in the Middle East or to, pay for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to keep up her Twitter following. It's going to the farmer so that he can go back to his farm, feed his family, keep the roof over his head, maybe buy himself, something nice, maybe buy his wife something nice, and then get back to work farming more stuff. Which is how it should be. Now, I'm not preaching that like, hey, we have to do this now in all of America, because of course that would disrupt the order and it just, people wouldn't understand what's going on, right? But this is why I like the farmers markets. And I think this is why most people who go to farmers markets like the farmers markets. People who go to farmers markets, now that I go to farmers markets and see people at farmers markets, they fucking love the farmers markets. Because the same thing I just told you. It's a community of people supporting communities of people. This is you want to talk about socialism, you want to talk about communism, you want to talk about people helping people. This could not be more apparent than at a farmer's market. When you directly give a person a money for the services that they provide, and there's no middleman, there's no middle bullshit. Yeah, I think they got to give a little bit to the to the people that host the farmers market, to the organization or the co-op or whatever it is. But there's no middleman bullshit there, right? There's no shenanigans, there's no lobbyists. It's just real, straight up, nutrient dense, whole food grown the right way, that has very little, environmental consequences, and I, in return, get amazing food. So when a person like this, like, I don't understand why a person like this writes a thing like this. Is there probably a lady who has far right ties? I think she mentioned something about this person was friends with a person who knew the guy who I don't know, went fucking firebombed a church or a synagogue or something like that. One of these terrorist acts. I don't know. I can't calculate that shit. I'm not trying to endorse that sort of thing. I can't help if this lady comes to the farmer's market with great grass-fed bison or something, that she also, is friends of a friend who knew the guy who fucking ran over people in Charlottesville. I can't help that. You understand that whoever you give your money to, and you give a lot of money to a lot of different people all throughout the day, all throughout the year, there's probably some real shady connections going on at some point in that money. So this faux outrage over, what is behind this? I don't think the Daily Beast is in the clear of who they're being paid for by. Was this an article that was maybe, I don't know, pushed by somebody like a big food company? Look, hey, possibly. I don't know. I'm not going to sit down and try to figure that shit out, because I got to go to the goddamn farmer's market, fool. I got to put my Hitler mustache on. I got to go to the goddamn farmer's market. I got to load up my car with all kinds of organic green veggies. I don't got time for this shit. Oh, and also Sprouts. Oh my God. Everybody's sprouting at the farmer's market. If you're not sprouting at the farmer's market, stop thinking about killing the Jews. Get your sprout game on, son. All right, let's go to the next story. The next and last one. I'm gonna end this one on a high note, okay? Talking about lists. I saw this one come across here. This was published in Market Watch. I think this came out from the CDC then, maybe. But it was the list of the most obese states in America. And the number one most obese state in America is, do you know? West Virginia. 38% of adults in West Virginia are obese. That is a goddamn catastrophe. That's a fucking catastrophe. That's a catastrophe, and that is a canary in a coal mine. That is basically, that's what we're staring down here in all of America. That's what it's getting to. That's it. I mean, 38%. I would say anywhere I go now, 38% of the people I see are fucking obese. That's crazy. That is a crazy number. That is more than 1 in 3 people. Just think about that. 1 in 3 people, not just overweight, obese. That is an American health catastrophe. That's why when I say things like we shouldn't be paying for free healthcare, we can't afford free healthcare. Well, that's why 1 in 3 Americans are 1 in 3 people in West Virginia are obese, and that number is gonna infest the rest of America if it hasn't already. Mississippi came in number 2, 37%. That's 1 in 3. On the flip side, Colorado has the lowest level of obesity at less than 23%, so 22%. So what is that? Like 1 in 5. Still, that is too much of a number. That is too much of a number for a metric like obesity. Not just overweight, not just like, hey, I need to lose some pounds, obese. When you're obese, that's when like serious health problems. That's when serious health problems are just unavoidable. I'm nowhere near overweight or obese, and I worry about my health constantly. Constantly. Like if I wake up and like my right nostril is clogged, I'm like, hey, get me some goddamn fresh moringa, get me some fucking vitamin C, get me some N-acetylcysteine. I'm gonna take this motherfucker down. But 1 in 5, just think about that, dude. In the lowest, the number 50th state, Colorado, 1 in 5. I don't know what the percentage is. This wasn't this article wasn't so clear on like breaking down, what the stats are, what the stats are for all the other countries. But I mean, it's pretty goddamn disgusting. I would imagine 1 in 3 is pretty normal for most states. 1 in 3 obese, man. Like I said, when you go to the grocery store, the middle of the grocery store, that's where the obesity is. That's where the diabetes is. That's where the cancer is. That's where the Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, by the way, has been referred to as type 3 diabetes because it's also just like diabetes, not just avoidable, but reversible, all with diet. You don't need a drug. The drugs don't do shit. They don't. But yet I'm being told, and 20 plus Democratic candidates all believe that we should be paying for people's health care when we know this shit doesn't work and we know that the shit is avoidable. This is absolutely bonkers. It's like if you remove yourself from your political side, right? And just put yourself as a person there, just like in space, just like in a room, just floating directly in the middle of the room, right? You have no attachment to anything. And this information comes across you. Information comes across, okay? We got to pay for people's health care. Okay, well, that sounds nice. So what is the fact behind that? How much is that going to cost me? Well, it's going to cost you a lot because there's 300 plus million people in this country, and almost 1 in 3 people, 100 million people, are obese, which means that their chance for very serious illnesses is, fucking redlined, over the top, insane. Meaning that most people in the country will need some kind of medication. Regular what am I trying to say? Like regular taking of that medication. And if they don't have the medication, like it's a full-on fucking disaster. This is an emergency. And so how are the hospitals going to hold all these people? Right? How are the doctors going to see all these people? How are the pharmacies going to take care of all these people? How are the taxpayers going to support this? And how are the taxpayers going to continue to support it as the number just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Where is there going to be jobs anymore if there's no industry for healthcare? We have to work for the government. And I don't think the industry for healthcare is good. I think it's terrible. I think pharmaceutical companies are awful. I think medical equipment companies are awful. I think that the patent laws in this country are fucking just absolutely ass backwards bonkers. But at the same time, we have to start encouraging people. We have to start giving people the right information. I hate to be the guy who says the mainstream media, but the mainstream media is not giving you the information. You have to go out there and you have to consciously get it yourself. It's, oh man, like this stuff just is what just burns me. It just fires me up. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll get off this podcast. I'm going to have to go dip in the ocean. I'm going to have to go walk down to the beach, and I'm going to have to go into the ocean because that's the only way I can cool down. That's it. If I just sit here in the apartment, I'll go crazy. But I did want to point this one last thing out here because I thought this was very fun. It made me happy. So in the article that I found, they put, what is it called? The couch potato index, and it's the states where adults get zero exercise. It's the percentage of adults engaging in zero physical leisure activity according to the CDC. And so the lineup of this list is almost identical to the list of the most, obese states, right? So it's like Mississippi's still number 2, Alabama, Kentucky, like those are at the top of the obese states, right? So that makes sense if you're getting less physical exercise or if you're a couch potato, you're probably going to be obese, right? So in the obese one, they didn't mention any other state. They didn't give you the list of the top 50, but they did say Colorado was the 50th most obese state, right? Interesting, okay? Because on the couch potato index, here's the top 5 least active people states. Okay, so Kentucky 1, Mississippi 2, Alabama 3, Oklahoma 4, Texas 5. So the middle of the country, just like the middle of the grocery store, the most unhealthy. Very sad. I'm not making light of that by any means. I'm just bringing that up because that's very sad. But then you look at the bottom. Here's the bottom. I think we can go even 6, 7 on this B. Here's the bottom ones, right? Number 51. I didn't know there were 51 states. What? Okay. But somehow there's 51 states. I had no idea. Okay. But because they counted the District of Columbia as a state. That's why these fucking... Okay, you can't trust anybody. All right, so 51, the state of Washington. Number 50, Colorado. Number 49, California. Number 48, Alaska. 47, Utah. Makes sense because in Utah, like, they don't drink soda. It's all Mormons. They don't drink soda. They don't do drugs. They don't drink. Of course, they should be number 51 if you don't do any of that shit. Like, what are you doing? If you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you don't even curse, how are you not out playing more tennis? Utah, 47. Number 46, Oregon. Number 45, Vermont. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 6 out of the bottom 7 states of the least physically active people of those states, 6 of those 7 states are places where marijuana is legal. Isn't that crazy? 6 of the 7 bottom least active states in the country, 6 of the 7 is where marijuana is legal. So let's just think about that for a second. Because the stigma of marijuana is that it just turns you into a couch potato. You just sit around just eating potato chips, but yet no. Turns out people who smoke weed tend to be physically active. I'm not making that up. I mean, that's statistics. Jesus Christ. Yeah, weed will make you want to be active, but it will not help you talk. The statistics clearly say that if you smoke weed, there's a good chance you're probably active. And I get it, man. You know, when you smoke weed, you think about like all this cool stuff and you're like, yeah, man, like I do want to like go out and I should probably jog some more. Yeah, man, like I should go get like a gym membership, man. Like, yeah, I do want to go try like a CrossFit class. Yeah, man, like I've thought about doing a 5K. Yeah, bro, like I like Ironmans. Yeah, like let's just go walk around in nature, bro. Yeah, of course, dude. It makes sense. Makes sense. But yet, no, you can't. Fucking weed just can't be legal yet. Can't be legal. Why? Because the big pharmaceutical corporations got to make sure that people are obese and buy their shit. Otherwise, how are there going to be jobs in this country? I think we did it, everybody. I think we really all covered all the shit that I wanted to cover today. This was a fun one. If you enjoyed the podcast, please go on to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, share the podcast with everyone you love. Make sure you subscribe. Please, if you like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. And if you're new here, take yourself through a little holistic a-hole binge and listen to previous episodes. Got some good ones up right now. And if you haven't done this yet, go on to YouTube. Find the Holistic A-Hole. I got new videos coming out every single week. Got a new video out there about vitamin D just in time for summer here. If you're sitting there lubing up the sunscreen and you're wondering, am I getting vitamin D right now? You should probably go watch that video. And also find me on Facebook, Holistic A-Holes Facebook group, or Bro Health Facebook group. Find me on Twitter at Holistic A-Hole. And of course, my favorite, Instagram. Find me on Instagram at Holistic A-Hole. If you love the podcast, take a screenshot of it in your phone, put it up on your Instagram story, give me a holla at Holistic A-Hole, and I'll retweet it myself. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Really appreciate your support. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Have a great week. Peace.